The back end of 2024, I thought to myself, I don't really quite have the outdoor space to grow exactly what I want and in the quantity that I want. We used to have 5 plots here, and of course the polytunnel is now where plot 5 originally was. But I don't really have the space to open up another 12 by 14 foot plot. So how can I maximise the potential of this space that we have? And in today's video, I'm going to tell you all about it. It's February week 2 and myself and Mrs. W need to get going. The weather's been a little bit against us, but we have a favourable weekend. So we need to press on with the first of the changes that we want to make to our New Dig Norfolk garden. Now we had a little bit of luck. Mrs. W happened to be going through Facebook Marketplace when she suddenly saw an advert. He said, "Oh, look at this, Barry." I knew right away, as soon as she showed me, that this would be the way to maximise the space in our garden. And here's the answer. Some raised beds. Now these are what are known as pallet collars. Raised beds can be quite expensive to buy either off the shelf or even more if you want to buy wood yourself. Wood in the UK has gone up tenfold. It can cost you a lot of money to make some decent raised beds. These were going really cheap that somebody was selling. I just had to travel about 10 miles down the road to pick them up. And the great thing here is he has lots more. He gets them in all of the time throughout the year. You've seen us grow vegetables in our Vegigar raised bed. And I really like the fact that that raised bed is actually quite high. It's easy to work with. So to be able to produce a raised bed at this height, yeah, it's going to cost you quite a bit of money. This didn't. These were just £7.50 each. So I thought, yeah, I can live with that and make them 3 high. They're a nice height to be able to do your gardening with. Of course, you do have the issue of what you're going to fill them with. But I'll tell you more about that a bit later on in the video. So we've actually got enough to do 4 raised beds. It's amazing how much produce you can grow in these spaces. Now, when myself and Mrs. W first moved to this property a few years back, we actually did do growing in raised beds. That's because once we could see our soil, we realised immediately that was clay. And not just clay, it was heavy clay. We couldn't afford to do them all. So some were raised beds and some were dug beds. Yes, we were not New Dig when we first moved in here. But we quickly realised once we went over to New Dig that we no longer had the problem of, well, pools of water, lakes in some cases on top of our soil in winter, skidding about everywhere. And we no longer had the problem of the clay soil baking really hard in the summer. So we did away with the raised beds. So how are we going to fill these? Because there's quite a depth to them. So we're going to use a method called hugelkultur. We used it in our Vegigar raised bed when we filled that. We didn't really film anything and go into it too deeply. We just said we used the hugelkultur method and did this and did that and did this. So today I'll show you exactly what we're going to do. Firstly, anything that you can get a hold of that's of minimum cost, even better if it's free, that's going to help in your quest to be able to fill beds that are this high. Cardboard, of course, is free. And just as we did in last week's video when we made the New Dig outdoor plot, we should be using cardboard right at the bottom just to stop any weeds coming through. Same thing applies. Ensure that you get rid of all of the sellotape and don't leave any staples in them. And I'd just like to say that, you know, you guys absolutely amazing. We actually gained 1,000 subscribers just in the month of January alone. And that's amazing because, well, for starters, that's never happened to us before. But you guys are really helping myself and Mrs. W to be able to spread our message as far and wide as possible. And that message is, you know, you can grow your own produce. You might not always be able to feed yourself for the year, but you can grow some. And anything you can grow, it's just going to be so good for you. And you're going to enjoy it so much. There's also been 40-odd thousand views on the channel in one single calendar month. It's absolutely amazing. Never seen such figures before. But have we achieved that? Well, we've all achieved it together. We've made the content, but you guys have watched it. Every time you watch a video, interact with us, either by leaving us a comment or putting your thumbs up. The videos do really, really well, and we see huge views on them. So together, we can get our message out there about no-dig and about growing your own food. And today's video is part of that too, because if you don't have too much space, these don't take up an awful lot of space. Raised bed gardening. Even if you're buying your house for the first time, and we all know here in the UK that the size of the gardens are not very big on new builds, but something like this, it's not going to take up a huge amount of space. Whether you put them around the border of your garden, or maybe you've got a small patio and you can put them either side like I have the polytunnel here. It will enable you just to use your green thumb and actually grow some nice veg. Now, last December, with that in mind, that we wanted to put some raised beds in place, we were keeping all of the old stalks from the brassicas. No need to chop them up, because the idea is that as you add them into your beds like that, they will rot down slowly, very slowly over time. And you can build, probably going to build it up to somewhere around here. And then the top layer will be some decent compost. And we found that when we did that with a Vegegar raised bed, well, the growth was phenomenal. These are the old stalks from the sunflowers. And with both, they've been into the chickens' run and they've had off them what they wanted. The green leaves that were on them, anything they can peck around the roots.
And the sunflower seeds.
And the sunflower seeds. So now we can use those. We deliberately kept back all of our, and didn't put in Beauty and the Beast, our hydrangea prunings from this year, because again, they can all go into your raised bed.
Even thick logs and, you know, thick pieces of logs and wood and things.
Oh, yes.
That will all, if you put that right in the bottom, they will very slowly rot down. So,
in fact, with the Vegegar raised bed, we put some of the prunings from the apple trees in, didn't we? And plum trees.
Yeah, we
and
did.
They were quite thick branches, weren't they? So yeah, and yeah, it's all good and provides lots of nutrients for your raised bed. that is the most efficient way to fill larger raised beds. You never know what's underneath there now, but during this year you'll be seeing exactly what comes out of them. The thing that struck myself and Mrs. W, as well as wanting to create some more garden or growing space in our veg patch, we also thought once we saw these, there's a lot of people watch our channel that do raised bed gardening, and now we can combine the two. We can do raised bed gardening, we can do our gardening out in the plots that you can all, or you all hopefully, want to watch along. Do let us know in the comments how you're getting on. Are you thinking of building raised beds? Have you built some over the winter period? How have you filled them and what have you done? Has this video inspired you maybe to make raised beds? Great for small spaces, and actually if you're disabled as well and can't dig, raised beds plus no dig is a great combination for you too, to also be able to grow your own vegetables or flowers if you so wish. I bought a ton bag of mushroom compost to complete these projects. We've used it on the raised beds, and we also used it on the no dig plots, the new ones that we made in the last video. That cost me £50, that ton bag did, but it's gone a long way and done a lot for us. And the cost of one of these raised beds that we've made today is just over £30, about £31. That's the 3 pallet collars plus the mushroom compost. The old stalks, all the prunings that we've been doing, all that was free. And the goat manure didn't cost us anything. So that's pretty good really for a raised bed. Really, really good. Now you probably noticed that we didn't bother lining them inside. Didn't really see the point. They will last as long as they last. What Mrs. W is going to do is to actually paint the outsides once the weather gets a little better, and then they'll look nice and smart up this end of the garden. We have the other two to finish off now, but these are essentially ready to plant into. As you know, we've been doing our sowings, and next month there is vegetables to go into these raised beds. And hopefully by the end of the year we'll be able to give you an approximate figure of actually what we managed to get out of these raised beds in a single growing season. If you want to know how we get on, the best way is to make sure that you are subscribed to our channel. And I must say, John, I know you said in a comment that you've been building raised beds, they're only single level. So for you, you need to make your no dig beds in the same way that we made in our last video. And if you want to know how we've done that, watch this video next. Have a great gardening week. We shall see you on the next one.